Dad? Want to say what? Say it on Ringside Politics with a Punch. Call Jeff Crouere now at 556-9696. Call Jeff Crouere now.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now let's talk about COVID and the vaccine mandate and another university. So many across the country is issuing vaccine mandates. One of them is Rutgers University, and there's a group doing great work. It's called Children's Health Defense. They are now suing Rutgers over the COVID vaccine mandate. And the lawsuit seeks declaration that the students' rights are being violated, injunctive relief, and damages. And we're going to be following it closely. A plaintiff in that case is with us now to give us his perspective. And Peter Cordi is with us on Skype this morning. And Peter, how are you? Good morning.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Very good. And thanks for your time this morning. Tell us how you got involved in this, Peter.
Sure. So after Rutgers announced back in January that they wouldn't be mandating the vaccine, they flip-flopped their position and made it so that now all students have to take it, even those who are taking all online classes, because if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to be locked out of the online portal. So now that got everyone involved, including myself, especially those of us who didn't want to get the vaccine. So thankfully, the Children's Health Defense reached out to a number of students, and it just so happened to reach me because I am part of some conservative groups, and that's kind of my circle. And I was one of the first people to sign up and become a plaintiff, and really wanted to be able to be a voice for us students.
I want to commend you for getting involved. So there are 18 students involved in this, including you, Peter, in this lawsuit?
That's correct.
All right, so the decision was made by Rutgers President Jonathan Holloway, and I guess, and it's mind-boggling to hear you say this. So this mandate affects students on campus, which is, I think, unconstitutional, but also students that are taking online courses that are not even going to campus. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And one of the angles our legal team is coming at this is based on the constitutionality and federal and state statutes as well. But here's another interesting motive and an angle that we're going at Rutgers in this lawsuit, because there's a major financial conflict of interest between Rutgers and the vaccine manufacturers like Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, where Rutgers is literally profiting off of mandating this vaccine, and they're putting money and profits over the safety and freedom of their students. It's like when a professor makes all of his students buy his textbook, but in this case there's serious health implications, and many of us students feel we're being put at an unnecessary risk.
And you are. And there is a financial angle. And of course these pharmaceutical companies are making bank. And of course this is wrong and unethical and should be illegal. This is un-American. I mean, I'm so outraged at what's going on across the country, forcing people. My view is, Peter, if you want to take a vaccine, take a vaccine. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. No one should be forced to comply with this. You know, this is America. People have different situations. People research it, come to different conclusions. So what made you decide, Peter Cordi, not to take the vaccine yourself?
Well, if you look at the VAERS data, which goes into all the negative reactions that people have had, there's been over 460,000 reported, just properly reported vaccine injuries and several thousand vaccine deaths. So aside from the fact that this is an experimental vaccine that hasn't yet been approved by the FDA, where the vaccine manufacturers can't even be held liable for anything that happens to you, we know that this vaccine poses a significantly greater risk than other ones in the past. And, you know, people aren't being allowed to hear about this. You're being censored online. There was actually a big group, a support group for people who have experienced vaccine injuries, especially for this vaccine, with over 120,000 members. Facebook shut it down because, Big Brother forbid, we hear the stories of those hurt and killed by the vaccine and make an informed decision weighing the risks on both sides. There is clearly, obviously, a risk to take the vaccine and also to not take the vaccine, but people need to have informed consent. And I agree with your statement that if you want to get it, and if you don't want to get it, don't. But you have no idea the kind of vile pushback that I've been receiving by leftists just for saying that.
Oh, Peter, I can identify. I've received it too. Serious, offensive pushback. And, I personally have had COVID, so I have antibodies. I think it would be harmful for me to try to take this vaccine. Others have plenty of reasons why they don't want to do it. I respect the reasons every American has for not taking it. I'm absolutely appalled that we're going down this road. Here in the city where I broadcast from, there is a requirement that you have to have a vaccine to go into public places, or you have to have a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours, putting a burden on these customers and these businesses. And it's just going to hurt the businesses. It is wrong. I think it's illegal. I think people need to be filing lawsuits all over the country. Now, in the complaint, you say this: it's an affront to human dignity and personal freedom because it violates our basic right to control our bodies. In a free society, all people have the right to decide their own medical treatment, especially to decide what to inject into their bodies. And every person has the right to make that decision voluntarily, free from coercion by anyone, and to be fully informed of the benefits and especially the risks of that decision. I think that is very, very well said, and I think 100% right on target. Peter, we heard for years from the left, our body, our choice, that, we decide what goes into our body. Now they've forgotten that entire argument.
Yes, they have. I mean, when they say it, of course, we all know they're talking about someone else's body, a baby's body. But when we're saying it, we really are talking about what to inject in our own body. And like I mentioned before, these manufacturers for the vaccines can't be held liable for the injuries or deaths caused by the vaccine. So if Rutgers is forcing us to take the shot, and God forbid something goes wrong, who's responsible here? Because if you think about it, let's say you weren't going to get the vaccine, but now you don't have a choice. Because remember, only medical and religious exemptions are accepted and limited at that. So philosophical objections are not. So if you're just a person, maybe you're an atheist, and you are perfectly healthy, and you just don't want to get this vaccine because you think it poses a risk, you're forced, or else you have to find a new school. So let's say you are one of those people, and you get the vaccine because you were forced to, and something happens to you. Who's at fault here? It's currently nobody. So you better have a good life insurance policy.
And very good point, Peter. And what I think is interesting, young people like you are, you're at minimal risk of long-term effects or death from COVID. And you have a 99.985% survival rate if you're infected with the virus. I think you might have a better chance getting struck by lightning and dying. And they're forcing this on the young students. But what's interesting is Rutgers is not forcing staff and faculty and administration to take the COVID shot. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is another factor in this lawsuit. The whole complaint is over 100 pages long, I believe, the legal complaint, and it goes into so many different avenues, so many different angles. There's actually been other lawsuits that have gone on, successful and unsuccessful attempts. I don't know if you recently heard about the unsuccessful lawsuit in Indiana.
Yes.
But we're having some unique perspectives, including for people in a similar camp as you, where they have the antibodies and they're still being forced to take this vaccine. Rutgers has been my dream school since I was literally in elementary school. I wear Rutgers gear all the time. I'll be wearing it later today. And instead of leaving this school that I love so much, it's, people like myself and the 17 other students who need to hold them accountable and fight back against these policies.
Yes, Peter, keep fighting. Congratulations to you and the others for having the courage to push this forward. I'm proud of you. Thank you for being with us. We're up against the clock and we got to roll, but keep us posted on this, and we'll keep our audience posted. Folks, have a great weekend. To our Real America's Voice viewers, I will look forward to being back with you on Monday.